Hi, my name is Ileana Ramos, and today we'll be discussing why young adults are leaving religion. To start, let's discuss the history of this trend. While young people have always been the ones most likely to leave, they usually returned when they got married or started having children. This is because religion provided community and structure for shaping children and their education. But starting around the early 1990s, this changed. Religious non-affiliation began to rise, and by the early 2000s, the number of atheists, agnostics, and other non-religiously identified, like spiritualists, had doubled, and by the 2010s, these numbers had tripled. Why? There are a large number of reasons as to why people leave the church, but today we'll be discussing 3 reasons that it often boils down to. Number 1, young adults have a distrust of authority. Number 2, they disagree with church's political stances. And number 3, they feel disconnected from the church community. Let's start with the distrust of authority. In an interview by Pew Research, sociologist Michael Hout discusses why millennials are the least likely to be religious. He talks about events that they were aware of growing up, like the child sexual abuse scandals of the Catholic Church, the Watergate scandal of the Nixon administration, the Cold War, and specifically the end of it, and he cites them as a reason for their mistrust in authority figures. He also discusses the way that millennials were raised. A common parenting trend at the time was to let your child develop independence and help them to learn how to think for themselves. This tends to be incompatible with churches, causing a clash with authority held by the leaders, who are usually telling their congregation how to interpret a passage or doctrine and how to interact with the world around them. This clashing can often lead to a person wanting to leave. Alongside the distrust of authority comes politics. Politics and religion have become very intertwined. No one can deny that in our modern political landscape. Events like the case of Roe v. Wade and changing divorce laws drove Christians to the polls in the 1970s, and by the 1980s, the GOP's platform was based on conservative Christian values, specifically those regarding abortion and sexuality. By the 1990s, young adults had watched how religion influenced politics, and how politics have influenced religion. The growing connection between the political right and religion is a factor in why people leave their religious groups. People see a disconnect between what they value, like equal rights, and what their religion teaches. Things like abortion, same-sex marriage, and divorce are all issues that often clash. Lastly, let's discuss how interpersonal relationships affect the rates that people leave. Many people who leave their religion often cite a dissatisfaction within the community. Things like hypocrisy, judgment, and alienation are often discussed. When church leaders praise those who are generous financially, but are hoarding those donations to buy their third personal vehicle, or their gold toilet seats, or a McMansion, it reflects badly. When people can't discuss their personal issues with their pastor for advice without it becoming the newest church gossip, that sows distrust. Meanwhile, many people who stay cite strong relationships as their reason for staying. Creating a safe and welcoming community is vital for keeping your congregation. Programs like youth groups, young adult groups, and mentor groups are often beneficial for the community and create strong interpersonal relationships that keep people coming back. Some religious people think that others leave because they want to sow wickedness, to do whatever they want with no consequences like eternal damnation on Judgment Day. This is simply not true. Most people who leave religion don't do so lightly, but with lots of consideration and effort to convince themselves to stay. They typically cling to their faith, trying to force themselves to believe in it, because leaving can mean backlash from friends and family. It can mean a loss of stability and comfort, and even safety in some instances. In conclusion, if churches want to attract and retain their young adult members, they need to reevaluate their authoritative style, their political stances, and make adjustments for how they foster connections between the members of their congregation. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and the sources that I used are linked down in the description box below. Please check them out.